They wake before the world begins. The first habit of the 1% that no one talks about is their relationship with the early morning, not the 7 a.m. morning, not the one where most people stumble into their day half awake. I'm speaking of the hours when the world is silent, when the air still holds the calm of midnight, and when distractions are nowhere to be found. The elite rise before dawn, not because it's fashionable or trendy, but because it grants them a level of clarity and control over their lives that the majority will never experience. This isn't about waking up early just to check emails or scroll through social media. That's what average people do when they wake early without purpose. But the 1%, they rise with absolute intention. When the masses sleep, the elite are in motion. They meditate, they visualize, they write down their goals, they feed their minds with knowledge, and they command their internal world before the external chaos can invade it. This time is not optional for them. It is sacred. It is guarded, because they understand that the first hour of the day is the most powerful hour of the day. It sets the tone for everything that follows. There is no snooze button in their life. There is no lingering in bed. There is no decision to be made in the morning because the decision was made long before. They designed a system, and they follow it, whether they feel like it or not. And here's why this matters. The early hours offer a psychological advantage. They breed a sense of discipline and control. By the time others are waking up, the elite have already dominated their own mind, expanded their intellect, and moved one step closer to their goals. That's not motivation. That's strategy. They use this time to distance themselves from the average, and that's how they win. Not in big moves, but in the quiet, consistent pattern of victory repeated each morning. It's the compound effect of waking up with purpose every single day. You cannot control everything in your life, but you can control when you rise. And in that single act, you choose power or passivity, discipline or delay, wealth or mediocrity. If you truly want to join the ranks of the 1%, start here. Before the sun, before the noise, before the world pulls at you. Own the morning, and you will begin to own your life. Success does not happen by accident. It is never random. It is scripted. The 1% live their lives with direction, not reaction. Before the sun rises, before the phone rings, before a single email is sent, they already know exactly what their day will look like because they planned it. The 1% never wanders through their schedule blindly. They engineer it. Each night, before they close their eyes, they script the next day with precision, not in vague terms, not in guesswork. They set clear intentions. They assign time to their goals. They make decisions in advance. Their time is blocked. Their energy is protected. Their focus is sharpened. Why do they do this? Because they understand that every minute wasted is an inch given back to mediocrity. They know that without structure, the world will pull them in 1,000 directions. Distractions will invade. Chaos will dominate. So they eliminate chance. They live with direction, while others drift in confusion. They ask themselves powerful questions. What are my highest value tasks tomorrow? What must get done regardless of obstacles? Where can I apply pressure that will yield the most progress? These questions are not reserved for once a year. During goal-setting season, they ask them daily, and they answer them with clarity. The 1% are ruthless with their time. You will not find them aimlessly browsing, talking about nothing, or engaging in meaningless activity because they have already decided what matters. And they give those priorities their full attention. Most people wake up and decide what to do based on how they feel. The elite wake up and follow the plan they already made. That difference alone changes everything. Emotion no longer runs there. Day vision does. They are not victims of circumstance. They are architects of reality. This is not about being robotic or joyless. It is about being intentional. Because when you live with purpose, there is deeper joy in every moment. There is fulfillment in execution. There is pride in direction, and there is freedom in structure. You must understand this. Your days are your life in miniature. Waste one, and you have wasted a piece of your future. The 1% never allow this to happen. They build each day the night before, and they execute it with discipline in the hours that follow. If you want to change your life, start with your next 24 hours. Plan it, script it, own it, because when you begin to live like this, everything around you will begin to change. And the gap between you and the 99% will start to grow in silence. They train their mind before the world attacks, before the noise, before the obligations, before the world begins its relentless pull. The 1% make time for the most critical battle they will ever face, the battle within. They train their mind, like a warrior prepares for war. Every single day. You must understand something most people ignore. Your mind is either your most powerful ally or your most destructive enemy, and the 1% know this better than anyone. That is why they start their day not just with physical movement, but with mental fortification. They don't wait for motivation, they generate it. They don't hope for clarity, they create it. And they don't allow fear or doubt to take root. They uproot it at sunrise. While the average person opens their phone to be programmed by someone else's agenda, the 1% are programming themselves with purpose. They consume content that feeds their soul. They read pages that expand their thinking. They journal to sharpen their focus. They speak affirmations to build belief. They visualize their goals with emotion. They review their mission with intensity. This isn't a hobby for them. This is survival, because they know the world is coming. The distractions, the setbacks, the temptations, the doubt. It's all coming. But they meet it prepared. They meet it mentally strong. Their mindset is not left to chance. It is conditioned like a muscle, hardened with repetition, strengthened with truth. The 1% understand that success begins in the invisible. Before wealth appears, belief must exist. Before progress is made, clarity must be found. And before leadership can be offered to others, self-mastery must be established within. You cannot build a powerful life with a weak mind. And they know that. This is why their morning routines include silence, reflection, learning, challenge. They confront themselves in the morning, so no one else can destroy them during the day. And this is why they don't break under pressure. This is why they don't react emotionally. This is why they remain focused when others crumble. They have already trained for this. Their mind is armed with vision, anchored in discipline, focused on what matters. They don't entertain mental noise. They eliminate it. They do not dwell in fear. They dissect it. They do not envy others. They use it as fuel. They do not wait for things to change. They command the change from within. Every day, the 1% repeat this inner ritual, because they know the greatest enemy they will ever fight is not the economy, not the competition, not their past. It's the story in their own head. And if they win there, they will win everywhere. This is the mental edge the world doesn't see, but it's the foundation of all their success. If you want to rise above the 99%, then start where they start. Inside, sharpen your mind before the world has a chance to dull it. They move their body to sharpen their discipline. The 1% do not move their bodies in the morning just to stay fit. They move their bodies to command their minds. They move to ignite their willpower, to condition their discipline, to remind themselves who is in control. This is a secret most people overlook. Movement is not just physical, it is psychological. The moment your body is in motion, your spirit follows, your blood flows, your energy shifts, your confidence rises. Action is a message to the mind. It says, I am in control. I lead this life. That is why the elite do not start their day slowly. They do not snooze, they do not delay. They launch themselves into movement. It might be lifting, it might be running, it might be stretching, but it is never stillness. Stillness is the language of the average. Movement is the anthem of the exceptional. They know that how you start your day is how you live your life. If you start with hesitation, you carry it forward. If you start with strength, you carry that instead. The 1% choose strength, not just physical strength, but the strength of routine, discipline, and intent. They use movement to master themselves. It's not about how much weight they lift or how far they run. It's about whether they keep a promise to themselves, whether they follow through, whether they dominate the inner resistance that says stay comfortable. That voice lives in every person, but the 1% do not obey it. They silence it with action. Through movement, they set the tone. They tell their subconscious, I am not here to react. I am here to dominate. I am not here to drift. I am here to lead. I am not here to be passive. I am here to act with power. And, as they move, clarity appears. Thoughts become sharper. Ideas take form. Stress dissolves. Courage increases. This is not coincidence. This is science and spirit aligned. The body and mind are not separate. They are one. And when one moves, the other awakens. The 1% know they don't always feel like it. And that is exactly why they do it anyway. Because feeling is the child of action, not the other way around. Motivation comes after momentum, not before. So they move, not because they want to, but because they must. And that one act in the morning of pushing themselves, of sweating, of committing sets a precedent for the rest of the day. It whispers to the world, this person is not to be moved. This person is grounded, disciplined, ready. If you want to step into the life the 1% live, then move. Use your body as a tool to unlock your power. Discipline is not found. It is built. One rep, one step, one morning at a time. That's the routine no one talks about. But the elite never skip it. They guard their environment with intensity. There is a force more powerful than even the strongest willpower, and that force is environment. The 1% know this with absolute certainty. They do not leave their surroundings to chance. They do not tolerate chaos. They do not invite weakness into their space. They guard their environment with a fierce intensity that most would never understand. Because they know that environment shapes behavior. It shapes thoughts. It shapes standards. You cannot soar like an eagle if you live among crows. You cannot think like a champion if your space is cluttered with distractions. You cannot dream boldly if every voice around you whispers doubt. Is why the 1% choose their environment with intention. Their home is designed to feed their mind. Their office is built to sharpen focus. Their circle of people is carefully selected. They do not allow negative energy to take root near them. They do not allow gossip to pollute their thinking. They do not allow defeat to linger. They understand that even the strongest person will eventually be pulled down by a toxic environment. So they do what average people fear. They cut people off if they must. They change places if they must. They invest in spaces that match their ambition. They sacrifice comfort if comfort threatens their purpose. Their environment is a fortress. Not because they are cold, but because they are serious. They do not give strangers the keys to their castle. They do not let weak thinking poison their dreams. They protect their energy like a king protects a crown. This is a silent routine, the 1% practice daily. They audit their surroundings, they clean, they organize, they remove distractions, they build atmospheres that feed their next level. Even their screens, their books, their walls, are reminders of who they want to become. They do not wait for motivation. They build an environment where motivation is automatic. Because when you wake up in a place that inspires you, your mind rises. When you work in a place that sharpens you, your focus intensifies. When you move through a space that reflects your goals, you behave differently. Most people blame their lack of results on a lack of talent or opportunity. But the 1% know better. They see that their environment is the silent engineer of their success. If you want to rise, rise where you are, planted. And if you cannot, then change where you plant yourself. Protect your energy. Build your world so that it forces you to grow. Clean up the negative voices. Invest in empowering influences. Surround yourself with reminders of power, not weakness. This is no small act. It is one of the greatest secrets of the 1%. Because a powerful environment is the foundation for a powerful life. Guard it, defend it, and watch how everything you desire is drawn to you with unstoppable force. They focus on one powerful priority. The mind is a magnificent force, but only when it is directed. Scattered energy is wasted energy. The 1% understand this. That is why they do not juggle. They do not try to chase 10 things at once. They wake up and attack one dominant priority with total focus. They do not ask, "What can I do today?" They ask, "What must I do today that will move everything else forward?" They live by this principle. Success is not found in doing more, but in doing what matters most, with greater intensity than anyone else. Every morning, they identify the one task, the one mission, the one challenge that will bring the greatest return, and then they lock into it. Phones go silent. Notifications are turned off. The world disappears. They do not allow interruption. They are not interested in being busy. They are interested in being effective. While the rest of the world multitasks itself into exhaustion, the 1% work like snipers. One shot, one target, one focus. They go deep, not wide. They build with power, not speed. They do not seek variety. They seek mastery. This is the discipline most people never develop. The discipline of singular focus. Because it requires sacrifice. It demands that you say no to distractions. No to lesser tasks. No to every shiny object that promises quick rewards. The 1% are not seduced by noise. They are committed to results. Even in a world screaming for their attention, they stay rooted in their mission. They choose clarity over confusion. They understand that each day holds limited energy, and if that energy is divided, it produces nothing but average results. But when energy is concentrated, when effort is directed toward one purpose, it becomes a force that cannot be stopped. That is how skyscrapers are built. That is how empires are forged. That is how generational wealth is created. Not in bursts of distracted effort, but in seasons of focused execution. They finish what they start. They do not hop from project to project. They do not quit because something feels difficult. They stick with the mission until it breaks open, until it yields results, until the mountain moves. This is what you must understand. You do not need more hours in the day. You need more intention with the hours you have. You do not need more ideas. You need commitment to the right idea. You do not need to do more. You need to do what matters, better than anyone else. Don't so ask yourself now. What is your one powerful priority? Not 10 things. Just one. And then give it everything. Your energy, your time, your belief. Because when you learn to live this way, your progress will become undeniable. The world will watch in disbelief as you rise from obscurity to dominance. This is the secret. The 1% never stop practicing. Focus beats frenzy. One powerful priority, owned with precision, is more valuable than 1,000 scattered efforts. They delay pleasure to multiply power. The world teaches you to chase pleasure. It teaches you to seek comfort, entertainment, ease. But the 1%, they play a different game. They delay pleasure. Not because they are joyless, but because they understand that real power is born from discipline. The average person is ruled by impulse. They feel a craving, and they give in. They see a distraction, and they surrender. They confuse temporary enjoyment with long-term fulfillment. But the elite understand the truth. They know that every moment spent indulging in instant pleasure is a moment stolen from greatness. They trade the cheap thrill for the deep reward. They choose to invest now, so they can enjoy later without limits. They resist today, so they can dominate tomorrow, because they understand that pleasure means nothing when it's not earned, and power means everything when it's built on sacrifice. Look around you. Most people will spend hours watching others succeed, but they won't spend minutes building their own path. They'll numb themselves with comfort and call it self-care. But what they're really doing is avoiding the pain of growth. The 1%, they embrace that pain. They walk straight into it, because they know that discomfort is the price of evolution. They train their mind to say no. No to needless spending. No to lazy habits. No to pleasure that pulls them away from their purpose. And in doing so, they develop a kind of control that makes them untouchable. Because when you can say no to what is easy, you earn the right to claim what is extraordinary. They delay gratification because they see further. They're not living for this hour or this day. They're living for the legacy. While others burn time chasing dopamine, they're stacking bricks, one after another, building a life most people will only dream of. This discipline bleeds into every part of their routine. They control what they eat, how they train, what they consume mentally. They choose books over binge watching, learning over lounging, growth over gossip. They don't seek escape, they seek evolution. And here's the secret. When you delay pleasure long enough, you start to feel something greater. Pride, power, self-respect. You begin to see what you're truly capable of, and that feeling becomes more addictive than any temporary high. Because now, you're not just surviving, you're ascending. It's not about removing all joy from life. It's about choosing a higher joy. The joy that comes from knowing you've earned your success. The joy of walking into a life you've built with intention, not stumbled into by accident. So if you want to join the 1%, start by mastering this. Don't give in to every temptation. Don't be ruled by comfort. Delay the impulse. Resist the urge. Hold the line. Because every time you choose discipline over pleasure, you take one more step toward becoming unstoppable. This is not a trick. This is not a theory. This is a truth the world won't tell you. But the 1% live it every single day. They move even when they don't feel like it. The 1% don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't wait to feel ready. They act, they move, they execute. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because they've trained their mind to rise above emotion. They understand that feelings are fleeting, unreliable, and often deceptive. The masses wait until they feel like it. They wait until the stars align, until the day feels just right, until their mood catches up. But the 1% know that if they did that, they'd never get anything done. They move anyway. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Action doesn't wait for inspiration. The top performers of the world have made this a permanent law in their lives. I move regardless of how I feel. That's how they build momentum. That's how they achieve results day after day, year after year. They wake up tired and still train. They face stress and still perform. They feel fear and still take the leap. This ability to move in spite of emotion is what makes them dangerous. While others pause, they proceed. While others hesitate, they execute. While others they dominate. You see, the body follows the mind, and the mind follows belief. If you allow your mind to become weak, your body will do the same. But if you command your mind to take action no matter what, your body learns to obey. You become a force of nature. The 1% have built this through repetition, through practice, through the decision to keep showing up, day after day, morning after morning. Even when the odds were stacked against them, even when nothing seemed to be working, they pushed forward. And in that pushing, they became powerful. They don't rely on morning motivation videos. They don't wait for a wave of energy to carry them forward. They understand that most of the time, the breakthrough comes after the effort begins, not before. Energy is created by motion, not the other way around. So when the average person says, "I just don't feel like it," the 1% say, "I didn't ask how I felt. I made a decision." And that's where everything changes. This is why their routine is sacred, because it creates a system where movement is not optional. It's automatic. Just like brushing your teeth or locking your door. It's not something they debate, it's something they do, over and over, until it becomes identity. And the moment it becomes identity, nothing can stop them, because they are no longer acting like someone who wants success. They have become the person's success naturally flows to. So remember this. The next time you don't feel like doing what needs to be done, don't listen, don't wait, don't delay, move, even if it's one step, one action, one decision. Because motion beats emotion, and discipline will carry you far beyond where motivation ever could. They design their days. They don't wing them. The wealthiest individuals in this world do not stumble into their success. They don't wake up and wait to see what the day brings. They don't operate on guesswork or chaos. The 1% live with clarity. They live by design. Their time is structured. Their priorities are non-negotiable. Their calendars are weapons, not accessories. They plan the day before the day begins. They think strategically before the sun rises. And when others are running in circles, overwhelmed and distracted, they move through their day with precision. They are never wondering what to do next, because they already know. Most people are reactive. They respond to emails, notifications, problems, and people pulling at their attention. The top 1% are proactive. They set the tone. They dictate the pace. They control their environment. Their life does not happen by accident. It happens by intention. This is one of the greatest secrets of their routine. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most with ruthless consistency. Every task, every meeting, every minute is accounted for. There is no room for wasted time. No tolerance for the trivial. No space for confusion. You might think this kind of structure is limiting, but in truth, it's freeing. Because once your day is designed, you no longer waste energy deciding what to do. You focus your willpower on execution, not decision-making. The 1% have learned this. They conserve their mental strength by locking in the flow of their day. They start with the big priorities, the high-impact actions, the needle-moving work, not the easy tasks, not the low-value distractions. They knock out what others avoid. They eliminate what does not matter. And because of this, they move 10 times faster than the average person. They are never surprised by success, because they planned for it. They are never shocked by opportunity, because they created space for it. They don't need time management hacks or productivity tricks. They rely on their daily system, a routine that reinforces power, clarity, and control. If you look at your calendar and it's blank, you are not leading your life. Your time is slipping through your fingers. The 1% don't let that happen. Every hour is aligned with their purpose. Every segment of time serves their future. This is not obsession, it's mastery. And let me tell you something else. Designing your day doesn't require complexity. It requires commitment. Decide what matters. Set it in stone. Block time for it. Execute without fail. That alone will put you ahead of 90% of people leaving life undressed and strolling. The masses let life happen to them. The elite make life happen through them. That is the difference. That is the edge. That is the mindset that creates empires, not excuses. They reflect and adjust every night before the elite sleep. They do something the average person never thinks about. They reflect. They don't just collapse into bed, exhausted from the chaos of the day. They pause. They observe. They examine. Because to them, every day is a blueprint. Every moment is data. Every result is feedback. And only a fool fails to study their results. The 1% understand that you don't improve what you don't track. You don't fix what you don't see. So before they end their day, they ask themselves powerful questions. Did I follow my plan? Did I focus on what matters? Did I live aligned with my purpose today? What worked? What failed? What can I improve tomorrow? They are brutally honest with themselves. No hiding, no pretending, no sugarcoating the truth. If they wasted time, they call it out. If they avoided hard things, they confront it. If they succeeded, they identify why. This habit alone separates them from the masses. Because most people drift through life unconscious. They live on autopilot. They never pause to examine the cause behind their effect. Reflection is a weapon in the hands of the disciplined. It exposes weakness. It sharpens focus. It strengthens resolve. It reveals the gap between who you are and who you must become. And every night, the 1% use this ritual to make micro-adjustments, small shifts, slight retouches, because they know, over time, those small changes create massive results, and they don't stop at reflection. They also express gratitude. Not in some vague, feel-good way, but deliberately, they write it down. They speak it out loud, because they understand that a grateful mind is a magnetic mind. You cannot attract abundance if you're stuck in resentment. You cannot grow into wealth if your energy is locked in what you lack. So they give thanks for every opportunity, every challenge, every lesson, because each one shaped them, each one stretched them, each one built the inner architecture of strength they now possess. Gratitude doesn't make them soft, it keeps them powerful. It grounds their ambition in appreciation. Then, they visualize, not just their goals, but the version of themselves who already achieved them. They see it in vivid detail. They rehearse the success. They walk through the moment in their minds. And in doing so, they imprint belief into their subconscious. They rewire their inner world to match the outer life they're building. And only then do they rest. Not in guilt, not in anxiety, but in peace. Because they know they gave their best. They learned, they grew, and they laid one more brick in the foundation of their destiny. While the world sleeps without awareness, the 1% end their day with intention. They close the chapter, not blindly, but with purpose. And that's why they wake up stronger, sharper, more focused, more dangerous to their limitations. This is not just a routine. It's a way of living, a daily audit of your mission, a nightly ritual that turns ordinary people into extraordinary forces. They ruthlessly eliminate what slows them down there. One thing the 1% have mastered that the rest of the world avoids like poison. They eliminate, they cut, they subtract. They ruthlessly remove anything and everything that no longer serves their mission. Most people think success is about adding more goals, more tasks, more tools, more commitments. But the wealthy know the real game is subtraction. It's about clearing the path. It's about saying no to the unnecessary. It's about removing the noise that drowns out clarity. You cannot build an empire while dragging dead weight. You cannot rise to power while you entertain distractions. You cannot become unstoppable if you keep carrying what holds you back. The 1% are not emotionally attached to what must go. If a habit drains them, it's gone. If a relationship pulls them backward, it ends. If a belief limits them, they shatter. If they're not sentimental about their limitations, they are strategic about their evolution. You may think this is cold. You may think it's too extreme. But look around you. How many people live trapped because they're afraid to let go? How many stay stuck because they're loyal to mediocrity? The truth is, what you tolerate becomes your cage. What you hold on to becomes your ceiling. The elite review every area of their life with a razor-sharp eye. Where is time being wasted? What thoughts are weakening me? Who drains my energy? What routines no longer serve my highest potential? And they make swift, decisive moves. They don't explain. They don't negotiate. They act because they understand the cost of delay. They know every moment spent with what slows them down is a moment stolen from what could speed them up. This is why they seem so focused, so efficient, so clear-headed. They've cut the excess. They've removed the unnecessary. They've deleted the distractions. What's left is power. What's left is precision. What's left is only what moves the needle forward. And this is not a one-time purge. It's a constant process. Weekly, monthly, yearly. The 1% treat their environment like sacred ground. If it doesn't inspire growth, it doesn't belong. If it doesn't align with the vision, it's a threat. If it doesn't multiply energy, it gets removed. Do not underestimate how much weight you carry in the form of comfort, old habits, unaligned people, and outdated dreams. The 1% don't let those things linger. They confront them. They remove them. They move forward without apology. This is how you move faster. This is how you gain clarity. This is how you become the version of yourself who no longer hesitates. Elimination is evolution, and the ones who rise are the ones who are willing to leave behind what no longer fits who they're becoming. They never let the fire die. If there is one principle that governs the lives of the top 1%, it is this: they never let the fire die. The fire is their drive, their ambition, their vision, their inner power source. And while others burn out, flicker, or collapse under pressure, they tend to that fire like it is the most sacred force in their life. Because it is. You see, most people get excited for a day or a week. They start strong. They have bursts of motivation. But then it fades. Life gets in the way. Emotions shift. Obstacles show up. And the fire that once burned so bright becomes smoke, then silence. But the 1% operate differently. They don't wait for motivation. They don't rely on emotion. They create systems to protect the fire. They build discipline around it. They revisit their vision every single day. They keep the purpose in plain sight. They speak to it, write to it, meditate on it. They never allow themselves to forget why they started. They know the fire cannot be taken for granted. It must be fueled every single day. They read, they learn. They surround themselves with energy that sharpens them. They avoid people who carry wet blankets. They do not entertain those who say it's impossible. They insulate their minds with fuel, not fear. Their mornings are sacred. They prime themselves for power before the day begins. They repeat affirmations that program their mind for certainty. They visualize the outcome before it arrives. They declare who they are becoming, over and over, until it becomes the only reality they accept. When the world grows dark, they grow brighter. When failure knocks, they open the door with resolve. When fatigue whispers, they remind themselves of the cost of quitting. When success comes, they do not relax. They double down. They raise the bar. They keep stoking the fire. This is why the 1% seem like they never stop. It's not because they're robots. It's not because they never feel fear or doubt. It's because they've made a decision that their vision is more important than their emotions. Their mission outweighs their mood. Their legacy overrules their laziness. And here's the truth you must face. If your fire dies, your dream dies with it. If you let it flicker, your results will flicker. If you ignore it, you'll live a life that looks nothing like the one you once imagined. You must protect your fire like your future depends on it. Because it does, fuel it every day. Surround yourself with others who burn with intensity. Eliminate anything that cools your spirit. Speak life into your dream. Take action when it's inconvenient. And never, ever let the flame within you go cold, because that fire is the one thing that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. It is the heartbeat of the 1%. And now, it must become yours. Your turn to choose, now you know. You've just walked through the hidden life of the top 1%. The invisible thread that ties together every wealthy, disciplined, and powerful individual. You've seen the early rise, the mental priming, the discipline of movement, the relentless focus, the control of environment, the purity of input, the refinement of goals, the sacred protection of time, and above all, the fire that never dies. This is not fantasy. It's not fiction. It's not beyond your reach. It is a system, a routine, a decision repeated every single day. And now the truth rests in your hands. Will you keep living the way you've been living? Will you continue to trade your potential for comfort, your fire for convenience, your discipline for distraction, or will you rise? Will you begin before the world does? Will you move before the mind doubts? Will you build a routine that reflects the life you claim to want? Because the secret isn't in a book or a quote or a podcast. The secret is in your actions when no one is watching. It's in what you do when the alarm rings, what you say when fear whispers, what you sacrifice when pleasure calls, what you choose when no one applauds. That's the real routine. That's the real wealth. You do not need permission to start. You do not need the world to agree. You only need to decide that. From this moment forward, you will stop living like the 99% and begin training like the 1%. This path isn't easy. It's not glamorous. It will test you. It will exhaust you. And it will require everything you are. But it will give you everything you've ever wanted. You don't build a legendary life by accident. You do it by design. You do it by routine. You do it by rising before you're ready, by acting without emotion, by thinking with purpose, and by becoming the kind of person your future will thank you for. This is the moment where you choose to wake up, to take the reins, to live deliberately. This is where your routine begins, not tomorrow, not next week. Now the 1% are not waiting for you. They are already moving, already planning, already executing. It's your turn to catch up or be left behind. So rise, move, claim your place. Step into the rhythm of the few and let your life become the proof that routine is not just structure, it is power, it is wealth, it is freedom, and now it is yours.